12 Sinister Legends Exposed, Spine-Chilling Tales Haunting America's Small Towns Unveiled. Linda stumbled through the front door after another grueling night shift at the convenience store. Her two kids, weary from days of school and evenings searching for a home-cooked meal, had finally surrendered to sleep. Cedar Hollow was painted in pastel colors, and during the day, smiles stretched across neighbors' faces. Yet, as night wrapped the town in suffocating darkness, those sweet smiles morphed into something sinister beneath the muted lamplights. Rumors of a local legend, the Keeper, floated through whispers, an ominous figure lurking near the edges of town. Linda had regarded it as just folklore, nothing more than stories told around fires to make the hairs on the back of one's neck stand up. But then odd things began to happen. Flickers in her periphery, strange noises bouncing off the walls of her mind. Her neighbor Mr. Hall's unnerving glances. She brushed it off, but uncertainty gnawed at her. Just as she began to tuck herself into the comforting blanket of routine, her son didn't come home that day after school. Panic shot through her, a fire igniting deep in her chest as she envisioned his small hands reaching for hers in a world that felt increasingly dangerous. "Mom!" a voice broke through the chaos of her thoughts, but it was only her imagination, unraveling the tight hold she had on control. Confronting the local authorities revealed nothing but a web of evasiveness, each answer quick and hollow. The officers, too, might harbor secrets tied to the Keeper's haunting presence. Dread settled into her bones when she realized that protective walls, disguised as safety, may instead be hiding something vile. Before she knew it, night settled over Cedar Hollow, draping everything in darkness as she closed the store. The fog was thick and suffocating, transforming the world around her. Shadows crept closer, stretching fingers toward her through the creeping gloom. She was not alone. A scream pierced the air, raw with desperation. It clawed past her scream caught in her throat, propelling her to action. Heart racing, she rushed toward the sound, each frantic footfall echoing into the void. The fog swallowed her, and nothing felt familiar anymore. Shadows flickered, weaving tales of terror, whispering of the Keeper, calling to the vulnerable. And then she confronted it. The figure loomed before her, wreathed in darkness, with eyes like two lanterns of malice. The air shifted, a weight heavy enough to break her. This was no mere tale. The Keeper was real, and it hungered for those she loved. As her heart thundered against the walls of her chest, she stumbled over the horrifying possibilities. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Staring into the Keeper's twisted visage, a horrible truth sank into her gut. She was utterly exposed. The town's safety was unraveling, and her children stood within the crosshairs of something monstrous. Time slipped away as she weighed her options. With a courage she barely felt, she realized the road ahead demanded a fierce protector. But the darkness surrounding her throbbed with the promise of grief, and just as she steeled herself for a leap into the unknown, she heard it. A familiar voice calling from the darkness, pulling her closer to an unforgiving fate. The icy dread gripped her heart tighter as she whispered into the thick night air. "Baby, where are you?" The voice echoed in the void, chilling and desperate. "Mom." It was unmistakably her son's. Linda felt her heart race, a mix of hope and the gut-twisting certainty that this was a trap. The keeper's gaze weighed heavily on her, its eyes flickering like torches in the night, promising nothing but dread. "Daniel!" she shouted, cutting through the swirling fog that thickened with each passing second. The sinister figure remained still, and the muffled sound of her son's cries stirred something primal within her. She took a shaky step forward, her instincts clawing at her to run, to flee from the malevolence that clawed at her very soul. Then the true horror unfolded. The shadow that towered before her twisted and writhed, streaks of blackness expanding like arms eager to ensnare. It let out a low growl, the sound vibrating in her bones. A warped version of her son's laughter floated through the air, distorted and mocking. Linda stumbled back, pulse pounding in her ears. "Stay away from him!" she screamed, her voice breaking. But no one was there to hear her. No one but the keeper and its tendrils of darkness. The fog began to swirl more violently, zipping around her as if it had a life of its own. With a swift turn, she fought against the encroaching shadows. Determination surged through her. She couldn't afford to lose her child. "Daniel, I'm coming!" she cried out, finding her footing in the damp earth beneath her. Desperate, she plunged forward into the obscure depths of the murky night. Each step became a battle as the shadows unleashed bitter winds that tugged at her clothes and whipped against her face. The cries echoed like distant bells, guiding her, but also luring her deeper into the keeper's realm. Was she being led to her son or into a snare? Linda continued to shout her son's name, her voice tearing through the thick mist, a lifeline in the encroaching nightmare. Then, rising above the cacophony, she heard the distorted cry again, but this time it wasn't Daniel's. "Help me!" the voice whimpered, echoing off unseen walls. Linda hesitated. Another child? Panic surged within her, entwined with the fear of making the wrong choice. The keeper thrummed just behind her, its malevolence seeping into her skin. But the plea was undeniable. Linda veered toward the voice, her heart pounding like war drums. "Where are you?" she shouted into the dark, desperate for a clue to guide her. "I'm coming!" Each word felt like a lifeline tossed into a storm, yet she continued moving, compelled by a blend of instinct and terror. She had to know who else was lost in this nightmare. The veil of mist pulsed, and she felt the temperature plummet. Breathing became a labor, each breath a struggle against the encroaching shadows. Just ahead, something flickered like a distant light, illuminating the murky fog. As Linda advanced, she could barely make out dark figures shifting in the gloom, hovering like specters, the outlines of small bodies whispering to her from beyond the mist. "Please, find us," the voice, frail and heart-wrenching, implored. It sounded so small, so fragile. Linda rushed toward it, heart racing, terror wrapping around her wildly like a tempest. "Who are you?" Her throat felt raw, the air thick with unspoken promises and looming dread. "Cedar Hollow! It's a trap!" The child's voice shattered the darkness, an urgent warning slicing at her resolve as she pressed onward. "You have to run!" Before Linda could respond, a cacophony erupted around her. Shrieks of laughter merged with cries of panic, echoing in chaos. The fog twisted into a grotesque dance, blocking her vision, pushing her backward. She felt a heat at her back, something dark and angry, a looming presence that meant to consume her. "No!" Linda shouted against the tide of terror that threatened to engulf her. "I will not leave any of you!" But the darkness roared back, an angry growl, and tendrils slithered closer, curling like snakes around her legs, urging her to succumb. "Mom!" Daniel's voice echoed again, faint and distant, lost in a swirl of darkness. What was real? What was a trick? Every ounce of her instinct screamed to flee, yet she fought against the pull, desperation pressing her forward. Was Daniel waiting just ahead, or was it all a trick played by the keeper? With a flicker of light still promising answers, Linda charged into the depths, knowing that the truth was just lurking in the shadows. She couldn't stop now. She had to uncover the hidden horrors of Cedar Hollow, or lose everything she held dear. But as she pressed on, she felt the shadows close in again, tightening their grip. How far would she have to go to confront the darkness and save Daniel? Suddenly, everything went quiet. The fog stopped swirling, and a deafening silence enveloped her, an eerie stillness that felt like a prelude to something horrific. And then, a whisper. "Welcome home." The chilling words sent chills down her spine. The keeper was waiting, and it had questions of its own. As the shadows flared, Linda braced herself for what was to come. Would she emerge with Daniel, or would Cedar Hollow claim them all? Linda's heart pounded in her ears, drowning out even the breath of the void around her. The whisper breathed her name, twisting and curling in the darkness. Welcome home. Was this a sanctuary or a snare? She couldn't tell. The whisper grew richer, pulling her deeper into the shadows, wrapping itself around her like a straitjacket of despair. "Daniel!" she screamed again, desperation clawing at her throat. The silence that followed was almost mocking. The air shifted, thickening. Her feet, heavy and rooted to the ground, remained immobile. An icy breeze brushed past her cheek, but it wasn't the chill that froze her breaths. It was the voice that brushed against her ear now, taunting and soft. "You don't belong here, Linda. You were never supposed to come back." She swallowed hard. Her instinct screamed at her to run, to escape the icy grip of Cedar Hollow's hold. But what of Daniel? She had gone too far, and there was no turning back. Each passing moment felt like a choice hanging in the air, a heavy weight on her shoulders. Then the mists around her began to swirl again, like a whirlpool pulling her further into its depths. Shapes began to emerge, figures in the fog once more, lost souls caught within the keeper's game. They drifted toward her, their eyes hollow but pleading. "Help us," they whispered in unison, frustration mingling with an echoing despair. "Please." A small girl emerged at the front, her face pale as paper, eyes impossibly wide. "You can't save him. He isn't here. You're only feeding it." Linda shook her head, defiance rising within her. "I have to try. He's my son." "No," the girl screamed. "You'll endanger us all. It uses your love against you, a lure, and you can never escape it." The shadows pulsed with energy, the air thick with malice, as if the keeper itself was drawing strength from her plight. "Leave now," it hissed, the voice even darker. "You will never find him without paying the price." It was the moment of truth. Linda felt another quake in the ground beneath her, a split second of dread answering her silence. She needed to decide. Would she abandon the other children, risking her son's future for their lives? She could not betray the bond of motherhood, but would her failure to act condemn them all? "Run!" she shouted, her voice breaking. "I will find him. I won't leave anyone behind." "No!" the girl screamed. "You'll endanger us all. It uses your love against you, a lure, and you can never escape it." The shadows pulsed with energy, the air thick with malice, as if the keeper itself was drawing strength from her plight. Leave now, it hissed, the voice even darker. You will never find him without paying the price. It was the moment of truth. Linda felt another quake in the ground beneath her, a split second of dread answering her silence. She needed to decide. Would she abandon the other children, risking her son's future for their lives? She could not betray the bond of motherhood. But would her failure to act condemn them all? "Run!" she shouted, her voice breaking. "I will find him. I won't leave anyone behind." Tendrils of shadow lashed out, the darkness lunging forward, pulling her back. "You think love is enough?" The keeper's laughter echoed, resonating in her bones. "Love will be your undoing." Before she could react, the girl grabbed her hand. "Then you must free us." Her grip was icy but resolute. "Break the cycle." With a sudden surge of strength, Linda ripped herself free from the darkness' grasp, feeling her heart race even faster. It was now or never. The flickering light in the distance pulsed, a beacon of hope within the void that seemed to pulse to the rhythm of her fear. "Freedom isn't easy," the girl shouted as she faded into the mist, "but it's your only chance." Linda pushed forward. She had to face the keeper. Adrenaline surged through her as she hurtled toward the light, but the whispers surrounded her. They were warnings and cries, desperate calls mingled with shrieks of satisfaction. "You'll fail!" A flash of illumination broke the darkness. A figure caught her attention, a silhouette, a familiar form. Daniel! Mom! Hope ignited in her chest, but it was quickly suffocated by the swell of shadows pouring in. The keeper howled. She needed to act. She had to act, and act now. Linda lunged toward her son, dread spilling into the air. Was he truly there, or was this yet another trick designed to ensnare her? Would she be able to reach him, or would the darkness reclaim her once more? The keeper's sinister laugh echoed after her, the answer lingering in the fog, ready to reveal its horrific truth. Linda's heart raced as she reached for Daniel, her fingers stretching toward him through the haze of shadows. His outline shimmered with a faint glow, enticing her forward. "Mom, help me," he called, his voice weaving through the chaos like a lifeline. But the shadows pulsed aggressively, darting around her, hungry tendrils that threatened to devour her whole. "Do you feel it?" the keeper whispered, each syllable like ice. "The power of your own need. This is how you will drown." "Daniel!" she cried, fighting against the tightening grip of darkness that coiled around her limbs. Each step felt like stepping into quicksand, with the shadows working to pull her back. "I'm coming!" The keeper's laughter sent chills down her spine, a high-pitched shriek that extinguished every flicker of hope. "You're too late, Linda. You know as well as I do that you are powerless. Do you truly believe you can break the cycle?" She hesitated. Was the light real? Panic clawed at her, the tightness in her chest relentless. But Daniel's voice pierced through the murk. "Mom, trust me!" With a fierce roar of determination, she lunged blindly into the light, the pull of the shadows fighting tooth and nail to claim her. She slammed into a wall of energy, a momentary resistance, as if the light itself was testing her resolve. "Let me go!" she screamed, thrashing as panic threatened to consume her. "I will not abandon him!" "Foolish mother," the keeper sneered. "Your love is your weakness. You will pay dearly for this." She clenched her fists and pressed forward, heart pounding like a battle drum. A flash of memory stirred in her mind, nights spent reading stories to Daniel, the way he laughed, the warmth of his tiny hands in hers. That love had to mean something. It had to be worth the fight. As if sensing her resolve, Daniel's silhouette grew stronger, closer. "Mom, just reach for me!" With a surge of bravery, she stretched out her arms. The shadows howled, whipping around her like a feral beast disturbed. A fierce wind howled, battling against her. A storm of whispers filled her ears. "It's a trap!" But she pushed through, ignoring the doubt like a distant echo, driven solely by the bond that connected their hearts. "Daniel, I'm here! I won't let go!" In one frantic motion, her fingers found his. Electricity shot through her, a surge of warmth radiating from her hand to her heart. The light burst forth, enveloping them both. The shadows screeched in fury, the keeper's dark presence recoiling, the hold weakening. For a heartbeat, time froze. Her breath hitched in that terrifying stillness. But then the darkness flared violently, and the keeper's shriek rang anew, louder than before. "You think you've won?" In that moment, the ground trembled, and she felt something shift beneath them. Instinctively, she tightened her grip on Daniel. "Stay close." But they weren't on solid ground. With each beat of her heart, the world around them began to dissolve, the walls of the keeper's realm crumbling, shadowy hands reaching for them. "Mom!" Daniel's fear was visceral, but there was something else too, something dark pulling at the edges of his innocence. Linda's eyes widened with horror as realization hit. "Daniel, listen to me. You have to fight it." But before she could pull him back into the light, the shadows swirled violently, and black tendrils shot out, wrapping around him, pulling him away. "Stop!" she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat as she struggled against the icy chains of darkness. But it was doing its work again, feeding off her fear and despair. "Remember this moment," the keeper hissed, its voice a haunting melody echoing through an endless chasm. "You will never escape your past." A new cry erupted from Daniel's lips, lost in the cacophony. He was slipping from her grasp and the light. "Help!" he fought, but it was no use. Linda surged against the darkness, a parent's love burning brightly against the void. "I will not let you take him." Suddenly, the shadows roared back violently, and Linda stumbled, falling to a knee in the swirling abyss. Dark laughter filled the air as Daniel echoed her defeat. "Mom, don't give up!" But the light was flickering. Was it truly gone? The darkness encroached, ready to swallow her whole, ready to consume everything she fought for. And then the shadows stopped. Everything froze. Just before she plunged into the abyss, one thought lingered. Was love enough to set them both free? The question hung there, malignant and heavy, as the keeper's laughter swelled, hungry for the final act. The silence throbbed like a pulse, every second stretching thick with dread. Linda knelt, fingers still gripping Daniel's, but the shadows flickered and writhed, relentless in their pursuit. The keeper's laughter echoed, wrapping around her like a noose, tightening cruelly. "Love, such a pathetic notion," it mocked, the shadows swirling closer, their forms shifting and blending into obscure nightmares. Linda could feel the weight of those words pressing on her chest, threatening to crush her spirit. "Daniel!" Her voice strained, torn between hope and despair. She could feel him slipping, the warmth of his small hand wavering against the icy touch of darkness. "Mom, please!" His cry bent and warped under the keeper's dark influence, a desperate plea filled with raw fear. Linda's heart shattered at the sound. "What do you value most?" The keeper's whisper fanned her fears, a serpent twisting her thoughts. "Is it truly your son, or is it your life, your safety?" It thrummed with a cold delight, feeding on her turmoil. "No, you are lying," she shouted, choking on her own words, fighting back the shadows that crept deeper into her mind. The memories surged, vivid and powerful, the laughter at bedtime, the way he fit snugly in her arms. Our love is real, and I will fight for it." With a sudden surge of will, she pulled against the darkness. Daniel's form squirmed just out of reach. Linda could see his face now, twisted in pain, surrounded by creeping shadows. She squeezed her eyes shut, and for a moment she envisioned the warmth of the fading light, the hope that sparkled in the distance. "Let him go!" she cried again. "You have no power over our hearts." But as the words fell from her lips, shadows coiled tighter, dragging Daniel further away. The flood of darkness was too much. They were both drowning. "Mom!" Daniel screamed, a raw, jagged edge of fear slicing through the air. "Help!" The shadows screeched, a cacophony of voices rising in a howling hunger. In the chaos, Linda's body seized with panic as the keeper stepped forward, a silhouette pulsating with dark energy. "Do you really think you can save him? Your heart is weak, tethered to a child who will never be free of the past." "Shut up!" she shouted, flinging the darkness from her like a wild animal. "You lie! He is stronger than you!" Something inside her sparked, a fierce, fiery need. She would not yield. As the shadow snapped menacingly, she envisioned the love between them, a golden thread tying their hearts together. It shimmered defiantly against the encroaching abyss. She lunged, the light from her heart pushing back against the vile darkness. For every inch they gained, the shadows shrieked louder, retreating from her blazing defiance. "Daniel, reach for me!" In that moment, something shifted. Linda felt the connection resonate, a bond pulling on the seams of the fabric of darkness. "Trust me, Mom, I can see it." Daniel's voice surged with newfound strength, rippling through the air. But just as hope blossomed, things shifted again. A cold snap of despair washed over Linda. The shadows morphed, coiling back faster than she could anticipate. A wrenching force pulled at her, drawing her back, away from Daniel. "You will not break free," the keeper hissed, and the laughter returned, bitter and mocking. "Hold on," she yelled, desperation fueling her. But as the shadows clawed at her heart, she felt her resolve falter. Could it all be for naught? Just as darkness crested toward its zenith, a blinding light erupted from Daniel's heart, bursting forth as if ignited by their love. The keeper's laughter faltered, replaced by enraged screams as the light pushed back fiercely. "Together!" he shouted, a battle cry that sent shock waves through the oppressive fear. Linda clenched her teeth, energy surging through her. They would fight this. But suddenly the ground beneath them trembled violently, fissures splitting the air as if the keeper was retaliating with everything it had. Searing pain sliced through her with each pulse as walls closed in, shadows writhed frantically. Linda screamed as 1,000 voices tried to drown out Daniel's, but she felt his presence like a heartbeat, steadfast and raw. "Are you ready?" she whispered, her heart pounding with resolve. Then, just as her spirit ignited with renewed determination, the shadows lunged forward, ready to consume them whole. Would they be engulfed forever? And from the edge of the abyss, the keeper's cold voice whispered, "This is only a beginning, my dear. The darkness always returns." The ground shook uncontrollably, the darkness swirling into a chaotic tempest. Linda's heart raced as pain shot through her limbs, each pulse of energy threatening to rupture her resolve. She could feel the shadows ridiculous and ever-present, snaking around her, their whispers turning pleas into trembling echoes that filled the hollow space. "No!" she screamed, eyes darting around, desperate for somewhere, anywhere, to release her grip from the abyss. "We are stronger together." "Mom, it hurts!" Daniel's voice was laced with agony, each word a serrated edge piercing through Linda's soul. She could barely breathe, the weight of the shadows pressing down upon her like a boulder. With sheer determination, she closed her eyes and focused on the flickering light at the heart of her love for Daniel. The warmth throbbed like a distant sun, urging her to fight. "You will not take my son," she roared, lifting her hands toward the shadows as if she could physically strike them away. But the keeper laughed, a sound so chilling it struck her heart with terror. "Oh, the foolishness of a mother! Your bond means nothing here. Chaos reigns." The darkness twisted and reached for her, slimy tendrils inching closer, slithering across her skin, and Linda felt her resolve wavering. She began to falter, uncertainty creeping in like cold fog. "It's over," she thought in despair. "There's no way out." "Together!" Daniel's voice cut through her swirling thoughts like a knife, igniting a flame in her chest. "Mom, remember the stories. We can stand against this." Linda's eyes snapped open. Stories, tales of courage. They had shared them, nestled together in the dark. Heroes facing insurmountable odds, refusing to back down. She could pull from that strength. She could feel their love blazing brighter than before. But the keeper launched toward them, its shadow looming larger than ever before. The ground shook violently beneath their feet, as if to warn them of the impending collapse. "Daniel!" she cried, ready to lunge forward again, her spirit bolstered by all they had been through together. But before she could act, a monstrous wave of darkness crashed against her and sent her sprawling back against the ground. "Give in!" the keeper hissed, looming over her, its form shifting to grotesque faces of despair that mocked her. "Your love is meaningless here. I will devour every light you have. You cannot protect him." Linda felt the icy tendrils wrap around her throat, choking off her voice. The shadows pressed closer, suffocating all hope. But she wouldn't. Suddenly, a surge of warmth pulsed in her chest. The golden thread of love ignited with newfound energy, swelling like a flame fueled by desperation. "Daniel!" she gasped. Hold on to me!" In that instant, the shadows recoiled. A chorus of anguish shrieks erupted, as if they were afraid of the light she radiated. Daniel shimmered with the same light, and as their eyes met, an invisible bridge connected them. "I'm here, Mom," he called, his voice ringing clear, a beacon amid the shadows. The keeper staggered back briefly, but Linda felt its rage boil over. "You think you can resist me? You will only make it worse." She could feel it, a torrent of darkness gathering strength behind the keeper, preparing to strike. Panic clawed at her throat as she glanced at Daniel. In that frantic moment, she understood. This was not just a fight for their lives. It was a battle for every ounce of light left in the world. With a fierce cry, Linda summoned every fragment of love, every cherished memory, and focused it into a blinding glare that shot through the oppressive gloom. "This is our light. This is our fight. We will not be broken." As the light surged forward, shadows howled in protest. Linda felt her heart race as the wave of brilliance pushed back the darkness, forcing it to retreat. But the victory was short-lived. The keeper roared, a sound infused with fury and desperation. "You are mistaken, my dear. I am eternal. This is just a taste of what is to come." The shadows began to swirl into an ominous spiral, gathering dangerously around them. And then, abruptly, the force at Linda's back blazed, and everything tipped. She and Daniel were yanked forward, wrenched out of the keeper's grasp, spiraling into an unknown abyss of sheer light and darkness entwined. Where would they land? Would the light protect them, or had they just traded one nightmare for another? And as they fell, the keeper's voice echoed ominously behind them, infused with an unsettling certainty. You will return, and I will be waiting. The moment they hit the ground, it felt like crashing through the surface of a dark ocean. Linda gasped for air, scrambling to her feet, looking frantically for Daniel. It was a wasteland of black and white, a landscape caught between two realms, where the sunlit past battled with the encroaching night. Daniel! Her voice tore through the oppressive quiet, laden with desperation. Mom? The echo came from nearby, shaky but real. She pivoted and found him, caught in the strange light, shadows swirling around him like fans of smoke. Are you okay? She rushed to him, her heart pounding in her chest. He looked all right, but his face was pale, twisted in confusion. What just happened? He murmured, his brow furrowed. Where are we? Before she could respond, the ground trembled, an echo of the keeper's fury. It shivered beneath her feet, violent ripples racing across the desolate expanse. A low growl rumbled in the distance, vibrating in her bones. Stay close, she commanded, grabbing his arm. They stumbled forward, the eerie light flickering around them. Shapes moved in the distance, figures cloaked in darkness, their outlines vague yet terrifying. Linda could feel their presence, a creeping dread thickening the air. Look, Daniel pointed, his voice barely above a whisper as he stepped closer to her side. 3 shadowy figures loomed at the edge of sight, their forms coiled like snakes ready to strike. Each seemed to pulse with an energy that resonated with the dark half of the keeper, its laugh echoing tauntingly in her mind. Do you think they're... Daniel began, but Linda knew what he meant. Minions of the keeper, sent to reclaim what was lost. Run! She yanked him forward, adrenaline flooding her system. They dashed away from the figures, the shadows reaching out, grasping desperately as they fled. The ground beneath them shifted, crumbling into deep pits. Linda could feel her footing falter, but she held tight to Daniel, dragging him along. Mom, he cried, his panic palpable. What if we can't escape? Her breath quickened, but she couldn't let fear consume her. We will. In that moment, she remembered the stories. Heroes who faced monsters head-on, defying the odds. Stay with me, Daniel. Hold on to the light. Feel the love, he yelled, channeling every ounce of his spirit. As they ran, their hearts syncopated in rhythm. With each beat, the light between them shimmered, illuminating their path. The shadows recoiled from this radiance, hissing in an unnatural chorus, as if they were allergic. But then, something colder brushed against Linda's back, ice-slicked fingers crawling up her spine. She spun around to face a figure emerging from the darkness, a twisted mockery of the boy she once knew. Mommy, why did you leave me? The voice was Daniel's, but distorted, dripping with malice. It sent every hair on her body standing on end. No, you're not him, she shouted, mustering every ounce of certainty. You will not break our bond. The apparition sneered, its face flickering. Leave was never a choice, it hissed. Linda stumbled back, and the real Daniel shouted, Mom, don't listen! The weight of the shadows felt suffocating as her vision blurred. For a moment, she was lost in a haze of despair, memories flashing through her mind, love for Daniel, pain of loss, and the warmth they shared. As the figures advanced, obscuring her vision like a storm engulfing its prey, a sudden clarity struck her. This was part of the keeper's design, each figure a testament to her fears. "Daniel, remember who we are," she cried, and they clasped hands tighter, the warmth unswerving. Suddenly, with a surge of determination, Linda reached into that flickering light and unleashed it, blasting forth in radiant waves. The shadows hissed in retribution, scattering like cockroaches in daylight. But just as it seemed victory was near, a deafening crack filled the air, reverberating through the void. From the depths of darkness, the Keeper's terrible voice echoed again. "You think you can defy me? This is merely the beginning." The ground trembled ominously. The world around them began to shift, breaking apart, and she clutched Daniel tightly as the fabric of reality threatened to tear. Where would they end up this time? Would their light be enough to hold the darkness at bay? As the shadows drew near once more, a sliver of impossibility crept into her mind. What if it was all just a trap? And deeper, in the shadows, something darker awaited them, lurking beyond sight. They landed hard, jarring through the very essence of their reality. Linda staggered, trying to gain her footing, as the echoes of their departure faded into a sinister silence. "Where are we?" Daniel gasped, eyes wide, scanning the landscape that felt like a dream twisted by nightmare, a graveyard of memories long abandoned and overgrown. Linda felt panic peel at her resolve. "I don't know. Stay close." The stillness was heavy, like a thick fog wrapping around their limbs. Shadows flitted at the edges of her vision, unfurling and curling like smoke. Each breath tasted metallic, and the silence seemed to grow arms, reaching for them, squeezing tightly. "Mom?" Daniel's whisper pierced the thick air. She turned sharply, her heart racing. "What is it?" He pointed. "Look." Out of the opaque haze, eyes blinked into existence, gleaming pinpricks of malice, blinking away the darkness, watching them. The shadows shifted to solid form, 3 figures advancing slowly, menacingly. The air crackled with their ill intent. "No," Linda breathed, clutching Daniel's arm, her voice trembling. "They're back." The figures loomed closer, faces obscured by darkness, yet emanating an undeniable chill. Each step they took stirred a deep-rooted fear within her. These were not mere shadows. They were memories twisted into bodies of terror, feeding off their anxiety. "Run!" she shouted, adrenaline igniting her limbs. They sprinted, the ground buckling beneath them as if trying to trap them once more. Gaps opened, black maw-like edges threatening to swallow them whole, but they dodged, leaping just as shadows swirled humbrily below. "Faster," she urged, glancing back to see the figures closing the gap, their limbs stretching unnaturally, almost tentacled in pursuit. "Mom, I can't," Daniel gasped, stumbling slightly. "Just hold on." She reached for him, locking her fingers tightly around his wrist. "We'll find a way out." The world shimmered then, a feeble glimmer of light cutting through the oppressive weight of the dark. "There! Over there!" she yelled, gesturing toward a glint that appeared in the distance, a stark contrast against the gray. Hope flared. But hope was a fragile thing here. The light became a target for the figures. They howled, an eerie sound that rose and fell like wailing gales. The very air vibrated with their rage, rattling the bones in Linda's body, as if the shadows could penetrate her resolve and feast on her dread. Daniel stumbled again, and Linda's heart dropped into her stomach. "Keep going," she urged, hauling him forward, desperately pushing against the intensity of their despair. Suddenly, they broke through the wall of darkness, stumbling into a clearing bathed in sharp light, stark and blinding. The shadows writhed at the edges, an inky barrier refusing to let them further. "Why can't we move?" Daniel cried, panic rising in his voice. The light flickered ominously, threatening to dim. "We have to believe," Linda shouted, gripping his hand tighter. "Remember the stories. Our love is stronger." Just as she spoke, a cold surge of fear wrapped around her throat, choking the warmth from her words. Yet, as they stood together, pulsing with energy, the shadows recoiled. But just then, a shadow broke from the mass, slipping through, closer than ever. It drew closer, reaching out with a hand that felt all too familiar. "Daniel?" it breathed, twisted and low, a voice they both recognized but twisted into ash. "No!" Linda screamed, her heart racing as she braced against the cold terror, even as it reached for her son. "Run!" But the ground quaked violently beneath them, splitting as the keeper's roar echoed through the air, sending tremors coursing through Linda's bones. "You think you can escape? There's nowhere left to hide." With a deafening shatter, the ground began to fracture like glass, spiderwebs of darkness blossoming under their feet. "Mom, I can't!" The shadows lunged. Despair tightened its grip as Linda felt the earth pull her from Daniel, a desperate split that threatened to sever their bond. "No!" she screamed, but before she could grasp Daniel again, he was swallowed by the abyss.
And in that moment of darkness, an old story whispered to life in her mind. There was more power in belief than they could imagine. As the fissures in reality yawned wide around her, she could not afford to give up. The keeper had not won yet. But what awaited her beyond the chasm of shadows? As the last flicker of light faded, she took a breath, ready to face whatever was to come. Could their love endure the storm now lurking behind the veil? The black void swallowed Linda whole. There was no light, no sound, only the suffocating silence wrapping around her like an endless shroud. She felt weightless, as if floating in a womb of darkness, and for a moment panic gripped her, squeezing her heart with icy fingers. Where was Daniel? The thought spiraled in her mind like a whirlwind, filling the emptiness with dread. But then something clicked inside her. She closed her eyes and conjured every moment, every laugh, and every tear shared with her son. "We are stronger together," she whispered, determination blooming in the cavern of her chest. Just like her stories, she was a hero in this maelstrom. Linda focused on Daniel's laughter, the bright, warm sound that had always served as her beacon through dark times. "Daniel!" Her voice rang out of the silence, resonating like a bell. Suddenly, illuminating slices of light cut through the dark, revealing visions of Cedar Hollow, twisted and askew, shadows dancing at the periphery of her sight. It was a distorted reflection of the world she loved and feared. The darkness pulsed, shimmering angrily against the light, but she pushed forward. "I will find you." And as if answering her call, she was propelled past the veil, a rush of sensation surging through her as her feet hit solid ground. The world around her shifted, and there he stood, at the far end of an eerie forest, silhouetted by an ethereal glow. "Mom!" Daniel shouted, his voice echoing through the trees. Hope ignited within her, making her legs move faster. But then, from the shadows emerged the keeper, its form twisting grotesquely. "Welcome back," it hissed, its smile hidden beneath dark tendrils. "You think your love can save you?" "No," she spat back. The shadows recoiled, faltering just slightly at the force of her words. Linda glanced at Daniel, so close, yet so far away. "Keep running," she shouted, heart pounding. "I won't let it take you." In that moment, she felt the love they shared pulse around her, a protective aura pushing against the encroaching darkness. "Together!" she yelled. Daniel squared his shoulders, fists clenched, determination etched upon his face. "Together!" he echoed, the light intensifying between them. The keeper's expression darkened, its voice a low rumble. "Foolish mortals, your connection will only feed my power." As if it were a spell, shadows shot toward them, reaching hungrily. Linda could feel her resolve strengthening as the light from her heart sparked with pure energy. No, our love is our shield.
The shadows faltered at the proclamation, and Linda seized the moment, charging toward Daniel, desperation fueling every step. She pushed through the writhing dread, her heart a drum beating for him. As the gap closed between them, she could see Daniel's radiant expression, pure faith shining in his eyes. "Mom!" His voice sliced through all uncertainty. "I believe in us!" With a leap fueled by love, she grasped Daniel's hands. A surge of energy coursed through them like a live wire, dissipating the shadows trying to engulf them. The keeper recoiled, newly threatened. But Linda refused to relent. "You will not tear us apart." In that moment, the darkness diminished, shrinking back as a soft, golden light erupted from their clasped hands. The once ominous figures morphed into fading shadows, hissing angrily as they vanished one by one. The keeper's expression shifted from rage to something almost frightened. "No! What have you done?" "We've broken your hold," Linda declared resolutely. "Your fear cannot dominate love." The world around them began to shift again, the darkness giving way to blinding brightness as they stood together, hand in hand. "Trust the light," Daniel beamed, and she could feel the warmth enveloping them, setting them free. In a heartbeat, the shadows dissolved into a misty fog, leaving behind nothing but an empty void that echoed with quiet defeat. With a loud gasp, Linda and Daniel found themselves in their backyard, under a blanket of stars, the night as peaceful as before. Everything felt palpable and whole. She pulled him into a fierce embrace, the reality of their survival crashing over them like a sweet tide. "Mom, we made it!" Daniel exclaimed, his voice brimming with uncontainable joy. "You did it!" Tears of relief fell as they stood in the cool night air, the horrors of darkness dissipating into mere memory. Linda wiped away her tears and whispered, "I would fight that darkness 1,000 times over for you." Daniel smiled, and in that moment, every fear receded into memory, replaced with warmth and love. Cedar Hollow, with all its hidden terrors, felt safe again, wrapped in the glow of their bond. As they turned back toward their home, the moon shone brightly above, guiding them with its gentle light. "Let's never forget how strong we are together, no matter what shadows come our way," she said, holding his hand tightly. "Never," he promised, his eyes glistening like stars. And as they headed inside, the echoes of their battle faded, leaving behind whispers of hope, tightly woven into the fabric of Cedar Hollow. Now, more than ever, they knew the darkness would always linger, but love would rise to meet it, ready to battle again. Brave beyond measure, mother and son faced the dawn, knowing they had triumphed over the keeper's shadowy reign. But all tales echo in hearts, whispers of struggle and victory. So, that's where we leave them. For now. But hold on. You need to subscribe now to my channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales of courage and supernatural struggles. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. And hey, flood that comment section with your reactions and theories because I want to hear all your thoughts on this wild conclusion. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this heart-pounding conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. True fans understand just how crucial your support is.